You have a balcony? Maybe it's small. Maybe it gets 4 hours of sun and you've already killed a cactus out there. And every spring you walk past those garden centers stacked with tomato plants and pepper seedlings and you think, not for me, that's for people with yards. Wrong. The people running those garden centers want you to think balcony growing is complicated. They want you intimidated because an intimidated person either buys nothing or buys everything wrong and gives up fast. Either way, they win. Today I'm going to show you exactly what to grow on a balcony, vegetables and flowers that actually work in containers, in limited space with limited time even if you've never successfully kept anything alive outdoors. 12 plants. Some will feed you. Some will make your balcony look like a boutique hotel rooftop. Most will do both. Let's go. Number 1. Cherry tomatoes. Not beefsteak. Not heirloom slicers. Not those giant varieties that need a trellis, a prayer, and 3 months of perfect weather. Cherry tomatoes, specifically a compact bush variety like Tumbling Tom or Balcony Star, bred specifically for container life. Here's what nobody tells beginners about tomatoes on a balcony. The regular tomato varieties at garden centers are indeterminate. That means they grow continuously upward, sometimes past 6 feet, forever reaching toward the sun like they forgot they're in a pot. They need staking, they need pruning, they need space. Put them on a balcony and they sulk, produce poorly, and make you feel like a failure when you did nothing wrong. Bush varieties are determinate. They stop at a natural size, usually 2 to 3 feet, set their fruit, and deliver. One Tumbling Tom in a 12-inch pot will give you handfuls of small sweet tomatoes from midsummer through early fall. They cascade slightly over the edge of the pot, which looks genuinely beautiful, and they need almost no intervention once they're established. Full sun is non-negotiable. 6 hours minimum. If your balcony gets that, cherry tomatoes are your first plant. Water consistently. The one thing tomatoes punish you for is inconsistent moisture. And feed with a liquid fertilizer every 2 weeks once flowers appear. That's the whole job. Number 2. Lettuce. Lettuce is the gateway drug of balcony growing, and I mean that as a compliment. Plant it once and you will never stop growing it because the return is so fast and so obvious that it rewires your entire relationship with the space outside your door. Leaf varieties, not iceberg, not romaine heads, loose leaf varieties like oak leaf, red sails, or any cut and come again mix. You plant, you wait 3 weeks, you start harvesting the outer leaves while the center keeps producing. One pot of lettuce can feed a single person's salads for 6 to 8 weeks before it bolts. 2 pots running on a staggered schedule and you have fresh greens from May through October. The critical balcony advantage here, lettuce actually prefers partial shade. Full sun in summer makes it bolt. That means it shoots up, goes bitter, and stops producing. A balcony that gets 3 to 4 hours of morning sun and shade in the afternoon is not a limitation. For lettuce, that's the ideal condition. The spot other vegetables struggle in is exactly where lettuce thrives. Shallow containers work perfectly. You don't need depth for lettuce roots. A window box, a long trough, even a repurposed wooden crate lined with landscape fabric will do the job. Fill it with good potting mix, not garden soil, which compacts in containers, and you're growing from day one. Before number 3, I want to know you that every week this channel puts out exactly this kind of content. Real information for people growing in real small spaces. No yard required. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Number 3. Herbs, specifically the Holy Trinity. Basil, mint, and chives. Separately, they're useful. Together in 3 pots on one corner of your balcony, they cover almost every cooking scenario you'll face all summer while simultaneously keeping pest insects confused and pollinator insects happy. Basil wants the hottest, sunniest spot on your balcony. South-facing wall, full afternoon sun, warm pot. It hates cold nights. Anything under 50 degrees Fahrenheit stops it cold, but in the right position it grows so fast you'll be pinching it back constantly, which is exactly what you want. Pinching the tips prevents it from flowering and keeps the leaves large and productive. Fresh basil in July from your own balcony is one of those experiences that fundamentally changes what cooking feels like. It goes in a container by itself, always. Mint planted in shared soil takes over everything around it through underground runners, the gardening equivalent of that one colleague who quietly books every meeting room. In its own pot, it's polite, productive, and essentially indestructible. Peppermint, spearmint, chocolate mint, all work. All grow fast. All repel aphids from the plants around them while doing it. Chives are so low maintenance they border on offensive. Plant them once, cut them, they grow back. Full sun or partial shade, almost any well-draining pot, water occasionally. They'll give you mild onion flavor all season and produce purple globe flowers in late spring that look genuinely pretty and attract beneficial insects. Nothing on this list requires less from you and delivers more consistently. Number 4. Dwarf French Beans. If you've always assumed beans need a large vegetable garden, a row, a fence, space, the dwarf bush bean exists specifically to correct that assumption. Varieties like Mascot or Celine were bred for container growing. They stay compact, don't need staking, produce abundantly, and mature in roughly 60 days from planting. One 12-inch pot, 3 to 5 plants. That's a harvest. Beans planted in May will have you picking pods in July. Pick them young and they're sweet and tender. Leave them longer and they toughen, which tells you everything you need to know about how often to check them. Every 2 days during peak production. The additional benefit nobody talks about with beans is that they fix nitrogen into the soil as they grow. This means the potting mix in that container gets enriched rather than depleted over the season. When the beans are done, what goes in that pot next gets a head start. Number 5. Radishes. Radishes are the plant for the person who has killed everything and needs a win. Seed to harvest, 25 days. Not weeks of anxious waiting, not months of uncertain progress. 25 days. You plant a radish seed, you check the weather 3 times and forget to water twice, and 3.5 weeks later you're pulling a perfect little vegetable out of the soil. They need almost no depth. A 6-inch pot works. A recycled tin can works. A gap in a window box between the lettuce and the chives works. French breakfast radishes are mild enough that people who claim to hate radishes discover they actually don't. Cherry bell is round, red, and classic. Watermelon radish takes longer. About 60 days, but the interior is bright pink and the look on people's faces when they see it cut open is worth every day of waiting. Plant every 2 weeks. Stagger your succession so you're not drowning in radishes all at once and then having none. That's the entire system. It costs almost nothing and takes about 4 minutes per planting. Number 6. Peppers. Not hot peppers. Not unless you specifically want hot peppers and you know what you're doing. Sweet peppers, specifically compact varieties bred for containers, are one of the most rewarding balcony vegetables a beginner can grow. Peppers love heat. If your balcony runs warm in summer, faces south or west, and you've been thinking that's a problem, it isn't. That's a pepper paradise. Varieties like Lunchbox or Mini Bell come in red, yellow, and orange, stay under 2 feet, and produce handfuls of sweet peppers from August through October. Start them early, indoors in March if you can, or buy small transplants at the garden center in late spring. They're slow to establish, but once they're going in warm weather, they almost don't need you. Water at the base, keep the soil consistently moist but not soggy, and leave them alone. They'll reward you with more peppers than a pot that size has any right to produce. This is roughly halfway through, and I want to ask you something honest. Have you ever bought plants in spring full of optimism and watched them slowly decline by July, wondering what you did wrong? Drop your answer in the comments right now, because I promise you it was almost never your fault. It was the wrong plant in the wrong situation, and nobody told you that before you spent the money. If this video is already changing how you see your balcony, subscribe right now. New content every week, built specifically for people growing in small spaces. It is free and it takes 1 second. Number 7. Nasturtiums. This is where the video shifts from vegetables to flowers, and nasturtiums refuse to respect that boundary. They grow as flowers, trailing, climbing, sprawling across whatever container you put them in, with big round leaves and bright blooms in orange, yellow, and deep red. They also happen to be completely edible. Flowers, leaves, and seed pods, all of it. The flowers go in salads and taste peppery and mild. The leaves are sharper. The unripe seed pods can be pickled and used like capers. Nasturtiums grow from seed directly into the pot, no fussing with transplants. They prefer poor soil, add too much fertilizer, and they produce massive amounts of leaf and almost no flower, which is the plant equivalent of a person who talks constantly but says very little. Plant the seeds, water occasionally, and mostly ignore them. They'll handle the rest. The additional function nobody expects. Nasturtiums attract aphids. Before that sounds like bad news. Aphids are one of the main pests that attack balcony vegetables. Nasturtiums act as a trap crop, drawing aphids away from your tomatoes and beans and concentrating them on themselves, at which point you can deal with them in one place instead of across every pot on the balcony. One plant functioning as food, decoration, and pest management simultaneously. Number 8. Marigolds. Every experienced gardener has marigolds somewhere. Most beginners skip them because they look ordinary at the garden center and nobody explains what they're actually doing in the garden beyond looking cheerful. Marigolds contain pyrethrum, a natural insecticidal compound that the synthetic pesticide industry spent decades trying to replicate chemically. The scent repels aphids, whiteflies, and the flies that attack vegetable roots. Plant one marigold next to your tomato pot and the tomato produces better. Not slightly better, measurably better, confirmed by decades of companion planting research. For balconies, French marigolds stay small and compact. Single-flowered varieties attract more pollinators than the dense pom-pom doubles, though both work as pest deterrents. Plant them in hot sun, water moderately, deadhead the spent blooms to keep new flowers coming, and they'll go from late spring through the first frost without asking anything significant from you. Orange and yellow marigolds next to green tomato plants and red cherry tomatoes in late August. If that doesn't look like something you'd see in a lifestyle magazine, you haven't seen it happen yet. Number 9. Calibrachoa. This is the plant that makes non-gardeners stop and ask what it is. Small flowers that look like miniature petunias, cascading over the edges of containers in waves of purple, pink, orange, red, and yellow, sometimes two colors on one flower. They bloom continuously from spring through fall without deadheading. They require essentially no intervention. And they are almost completely unknown to beginner gardeners because they don't have a common name that sticks in people's heads the way petunia or geranium does. Regular petunias need deadheading, removing the spent flowers regularly to keep new ones coming. Skip that task and they get straggly and stop performing. Calibrachoa self-cleans. The old flowers drop on their own and new ones take their place continuously all season. On a balcony where you want maximum color with minimum daily maintenance, this is the answer. They need sun, at least 5 to 6 hours, good drainage, and regular watering. In a hanging basket or a window box where they can trail naturally, they're one of the most visually impactful plants available at any price point. Put one in a basket hung at balcony railing height, and the color will be visible from the street below. Number 10. Lavender. Lavender belongs on this list for 3 separate reasons, which means it's either doing 3 times the work of most plants here, or it's seriously undercharging for its services. The fragrance is the obvious one. A pot of lavender in full bloom outside a balcony door means you smell it every time you open the door in summer. That's not a small thing. The experience of stepping out in the morning to that scent is one of those simple domestic pleasures that costs almost nothing once the plant is established. The second reason, lavender repels mosquitoes. The compound linalool disrupts the chemical navigation system mosquitoes use to locate human targets. They can't lock onto you and they move on. A pot of lavender by your seating area on a warm evening isn't decoration. It's a perimeter system that requires no batteries and no reapplication. The third reason, it attracts pollinators in serious numbers. Bees work lavender constantly when it's in bloom. If you're growing tomatoes, peppers, or beans on the same balcony, more pollinators means more fruit set, which means better harvests from everything around it. Grow Hidcote or Munstead for compact size suited to containers. Full sun, well-draining gritty soil, lavender hates sitting in moisture, and cut it back by about 1/3 after the first bloom flush to encourage a second wave in late summer. Number 11. Geraniums. Not the annual pelargoniums everyone's grandmother had on her windowsill, though those work too on a purely practical level. Hardy geraniums, specifically compact varieties suited to container growing, are a different matter entirely. Geranium roseanne is the one worth knowing. It blooms from late spring through October, genuinely not as marketing language, with violet-blue flowers over a mounding habit that works in almost any container. It asks for very little. Reasonable sun, occasional water, no deadheading required. It attracts pollinators and fills whatever gap exists in your balcony arrangement with something that looks considered and intentional. The thing experienced balcony gardeners know about geraniums that beginners discover too late, they act as a visual connector. Put one between the tomatoes and the marigolds and the lavender, and suddenly the balcony looks arranged rather than assembled. One plant that makes everything around it look like it was planned. Number 12. Sweet Alyssum. Small white or purple flowers, dense clusters, honey scent that carries further than you'd expect from something so low and compact. Sweet Alyssum grows fast, blooms abundantly, and fills the edges and front lips of containers that would otherwise look empty and unfinished. It's a living mulch and an insect magnet at the same time. Planted around the base of your tomatoes or along the front of a window box, it keeps the soil slightly cooler and moister in summer heat while attracting hoverflies and parasitic wasps, the beneficial insects that prey on aphids and other soft-bodied pests. Your vegetable plants perform better. Your containers look more complete. Your local insect ecosystem gets a reliable food source. Alyssum tolerates partial shade better than most flowers, self-seeds readily, so you'll often find it returning the following year in the same containers, and costs almost nothing at any garden center. It's not the dramatic showpiece of the balcony, it's the plant that quietly makes every other plant look better while handling jobs nobody assigned it. Now, before I wrap this up, 3 things that will determine whether everything on this list actually works for you. First, drainage matters more than anything else on a balcony. Container plants fail at the roots long before you see any problem above soil level. Pots without drainage holes, trays that hold standing water, heavy garden soil that compacts and drowns roots, these kill more balcony plants than any other cause combined. Every container needs drainage holes. Use good quality potting mix, not garden soil. Lift pots slightly on pot feet if possible so water moves through freely. Do this once and it's done. Second, watering on a balcony is different from watering in a garden. Balconies bake. Wind desiccates containers faster than anything at ground level. A container that needs water every 3 days in May might need it every day in July and August. Get into the habit of checking soil moisture by pushing your finger an inch into the mix. If it's dry an inch down, water thoroughly. If it's still damp, wait. A moisture meter costs about $8 and removes all the guesswork permanently. Third, start with 3 plants, not 12. I know I just gave you 12 options and every one of them will work, but a beginner who plants 3 things and succeeds builds the knowledge, the confidence, and the genuine desire to expand next season. A beginner who plants 12 things and loses half of them to inconsistent care or the wrong placement loses the enthusiasm along with the plants. Cherry tomatoes, lettuce, and marigolds. That's a complete first season. One thing that feeds you continuously, one thing that protects everything else. Master those 3 and next spring you'll have a list of your own. The balcony gardeners who have the most beautiful, most productive outdoor spaces didn't start with the most plants. They started with the right ones. They paid attention to what worked, replaced what didn't, and added something new each season based on actual experience rather than optimism in a garden center. That's not a secret. It's just a process, and the only way to get through it is to start. Which plant on this list are you putting in a pot first? Tell me in the comments right now. Tell me what zone or region you're in and how much sun your balcony gets, because that information shapes every video I make after this one. I read every comment, and your setup matters to how this content develops. If this video gave you a clearer picture of what your balcony is actually capable of, subscribe. New content every week, free, covering exactly this kind of real-world small space growing. The gardeners who subscribed at the beginning of this video are already ahead. The ones who subscribe now are right behind them. Go get a pot. Go get some soil. The balcony has been waiting long enough.